My name's Kyle Butcher, United States Army Specialist, and this is my story. I'm from Sharpsburg, Georgia. I was raised by my mom and my stepdad. I grew up on a private lake. Fishing every afternoon was literally what I got to do with my stepdad. You know, when he come home from work, we'd get out and go fishing. That's where I learned everything, you know, practicing casting in the backyard at a little age. I think from the time I was 5, I started fishing, you know, largemouth, brim, crappie. It was very integral in my childhood, being able to spend time outdoors. My stepfather was my mentor for the majority of my life, but I always knew that I was patriotic, wanted to serve my country in some form or fashion. I didn't come from a military background. It wasn't pressed on me to go to the service. After 9/11 happened, I was a sophomore in high school, and so after my junior year, I went into the delayed entry program. I ended up going to the Army right out of high school. So 2 weeks after I graduated, ended up went to basic training there at Fort Benning. After basic and AIT, ended up going to Javelin School. After that, went to Airborne School. And the funny thing is after I graduated Airborne School, I got orders to the 82nd, and I knew I was going to be an Army Ranger. And shortly after making it to 3rd Ranger Battalion, we deployed to Afghanistan January 1st, 2004. Spent 3.5 months over there in Bagram. That was my first exposure to rural mountains and freezing cold, and I absolutely did not enjoy that aspect of it, but ultimately loved what I was doing with who I was doing it. In April of 2004, May, went to Ranger School that summer, graduated Ranger School in September of 2004. Into September, we spun back up and we deployed again to Mosul, Iraq. I spent my 20th birthday in Mosul, so November 14th, 2004. Exactly 2 weeks later, November 28th, we were doing a direct action raid. I was the 3rd man in, going to a side-fed room. After a few HVTs that were in charge of a mortar cell there, and ended up taking 3 rounds to my legs. Ultimately ended my military career. At that time, there wasn't any warrior training battalions since it was early on in the war. I ended up getting medically separated from the Army in 2005. After my rehab at battalion, it took me about 6 months to fully be able to walk again, but I'd literally lost my brothers that I knew had my back. I was back. I didn't have a uniform anymore. I really didn't, yes, I accomplished being a Ranger. I was serving my country, and then have it all taken away from me without it being my choice was a very hard pill to swallow. I did not know how to do that, especially at 20 years old. So in 2012, I met Nate, and that's when I learned about Veterans Afield. Nate had been helping a local organization there who was very good friends with Dave Hintosh up here at Veterans Afield Foundation, but being able to get out and reconnect with not only Nate, not Dave and his family, but other veterans in an environment like that is ultimately critical to, one, reconnecting, forming those camaraderie, finding those bonds, building that trust amongst strangers through commonalities. We all struggle. We all have a story. Each of them, that's what makes us different. And to be able to start off with a stranger on a Monday, and by the end of the week, you feel like you're leaving with family members, is ultimately what makes programs like Veterans Afield Foundation up here absolutely critical, helping veterans get back out and find their purpose, find their passion. And I lost my sense of passion for the outdoors. I was working in the Pacific Northwest for the organization that I worked for, and I got a text from Nate asking if I'd be interested in coming back up to Maine to smallmouth bass, possibly catching salmon, trout, fly fishing up here with Dave and the guys at Veterans Afield. And I was like, hey babe, I'm missing Father's Day because I'm going to go enjoy doing what I love to do. And she said, I think that sounds great. So we went fishing at East Grand Lake, which is a beautiful, it's just amazing, a body of water that I haven't seen. Beautiful, crystal clear. We got to troll for salmon, got to fly fish catching smallmouth bass, catching perch. I'd never caught a yellow perch. Getting to, stop and literally build a fire and make a lunch on a beach. And then we got to go down and stay at Wheaton's Lodge, and those guys were 100% top-notch, hospitable, welcoming. Didn't seem like I met a stranger. They were being on this trip, fishing and being able to meet new people. And ultimately, I had this moment while we were making lunch on the beach where it was like, I won't call it an epiphany, but it was like that holy smokes moment where you're like, this is what living's about. Literally taking in the scenery for what it is, being out in the moment, being present, feeling the feels, smelling the smells. It revitalizes me, but it also kind of gives me that reset. We're constantly busy in our day-to-day lives, and coming up here, being able to spend this weekend with Nate and Nick and Dave, and all the people from Veterans Afield, trips like these that allow us to reset, kind of rejuvenate us, and find our center and help us ground is what makes it so amazing. And I'll never be able to thank them enough. I'll be forever grateful for this trip. It's been a once in a lifetime.
To Specialist Kyle Butcher, thank you for your service. Everyone at Mossy Oak is honored to know you.